Amara Johnson stood frozen in the crowded airport terminal, her arms still wrapped around a complete stranger. The man's expensive cologne filled her senses as horrified realization washed over her. This was not her brother. The strong, unfamiliar arms that had instinctively returned her embrace now stiffened. She had hugged the wrong man in front of hundreds of people, and not just any man, based on the shocked expressions of those around them and the suddenly appearing security personnel, someone important. Amara's heart hammered against her ribs as she slowly pulled away, her eyes traveling up to meet piercing blue ones that studied her with intense curiosity rather than the anger she expected. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the airport announcements. Her cheeks burned with embarrassment as she took a step back, clutching her worn handbag to her chest like a shield. "I thought you were my brother. You're wearing the same jacket he has." The man, tall with broad shoulders and an air of authority that seemed to command the space around him, didn't immediately respond. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, his expression unreadable. People were staring. Some had phones raised, undoubtedly capturing her humiliation for social media. Amara wished the polished airport floor would open up and swallow her whole. "Miss," one of the security guards stepped forward, his tone stern. "Step away from Mr. Reed, please." Mr. Reed. The name clicked in her mind immediately. Marcus Reed. The tech billionaire whose face occasionally graced magazine covers and news reports. The man who had transformed a small startup into one of the world's leading technology companies. And she had just thrown her arms around him in a very public display of mistaken identity. "It's all right," Marcus Reed finally spoke, his voice surprisingly gentle as he raised a hand to halt the approaching security. "Simple mistake." Amara nodded gratefully, still unable to meet his eyes. "I'm really sorry. My brother said he'd be wearing a blue jacket and from behind, you looked just like him." A small smile played at the corner of his mouth. "No harm done." He paused, then added, "Though I don't think I've ever been greeted quite so enthusiastically at an airport before." Before Amara could respond, a voice called out from behind her. "Amara, there you are." She turned to see her actual brother, Samuel, pushing through the crowd, indeed wearing a similar blue jacket. The resemblance from behind was clear, though Samuel was several inches shorter than the billionaire. "I see you've been making friends," Samuel joked as he approached, though his smile faltered when he noticed the security personnel and the whispers spreading through the crowd. "Wrong person," Amara managed to say, wishing she could disappear. Marcus Reed watched the interaction with interest, his eyes never leaving Amara's face. Something about her had caught his attention. Her genuine embarrassment, perhaps, or the warm sincerity in her eyes when she'd looked up at him. In a world where people approached him only for what they could gain, her mistake was refreshingly authentic. "Mr. Reed, your car is waiting," his assistant reminded him, appearing at his side with practiced efficiency. Marcus nodded but hesitated before turning to leave. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card, offering it to Amara with a casual gesture that belied the unusual nature of his action. "In case you ever need to hug the right person," he said with a slight smile, his voice low enough that only she could hear. Amara took the card automatically, her fingers brushing against his. For a moment, time seemed to slow as their eyes met again. Then Samuel tugged at her arm, breaking the connection. "Come on, sis. Mom's waiting in the car." As Amara allowed herself to be led away, she couldn't help glancing back over her shoulder. Marcus Reed still stood watching her, an unreadable expression on his face. She quickly looked away, tucking the business card into her pocket without examining it. What would a billionaire want with someone like her? It was probably just a polite gesture, she told herself, nothing more. But as she walked away with her brother, listening to him tease her about assaulting a billionaire, she couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just happened. What she didn't know was that Marcus Reed was thinking the same thing, watching her disappear into the crowd and wondering for the first time in years, what it might be like to know someone who saw him as a person rather than a fortune. "Who was that?" his assistant asked, scanning her tablet as they walked toward the exit. Marcus shook his head slightly. "I have no idea," he replied. "But I'd like to find out." The airport continued its busy rhythm around them, travelers rushing to destinations, announcements blaring overhead, reunions and departures happening in every corner. But for two people who had briefly connected in the most unexpected way, the world had shifted slightly on its axis. Neither knew what would come next, but both felt the pull of possibility, a chance encounter that might lead somewhere neither had imagined possible. Amara stared out the window of the cramped apartment she shared with her mother and brother, watching rain streak down the glass. 3 days had passed since the airport incident, but the memory still made her stomach tighten with embarrassment. Her phone buzzed on the small table beside her. Another notification from social media where a blurry video of her hugging Marcus Reed had gone viral. "Airport lady mistakes billionaire for brother," read one headline. She hadn't even known someone was filming. "You're famous now," Samuel teased, peering over her shoulder at the phone. Amara sighed and turned the phone face down. "Not the kind of famous I'd ever want to be." Their mother, Esther Johnson, looked up from the pile of medical bills she was sorting through. Despite working 2 jobs as a nurse's aide, making ends meet had become increasingly difficult since her diagnosis. The cancer treatments had drained their savings, and Amara had put her college education on hold to help with expenses. "At least you gave people something to smile about," Esther said kindly. "And that man, Mr. Reed, he seemed nice about it." "He was," Amara admitted, remembering the business card still tucked in her wallet. She hadn't told her family about it, knowing they would read too much into the gesture. It was nothing, she reminded herself. Just a polite response to an awkward situation. "Did you hear back about that job at the community center?" Esther asked, changing the subject. Amara shook her head. "They said they'd call by the end of the week. The pay isn't great, but it's close to home, and the hours would let me still help with your appointments." Samuel's expression darkened. "You shouldn't have to put your life on hold for us, Amara. You were supposed to be finishing your teaching degree this year." "Family comes first," Amara replied simply. It was the value their mother had instilled in them since childhood. After their father had abandoned the family when Amara was just 10, the 3 of them had formed an unbreakable bond. They took care of each other. Across town, in a penthouse apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, Marcus Reed sat in his home office, unable to focus on the acquisition proposal on his screen. His thoughts kept drifting to the woman from the airport. His security team had identified her from the viral video. Amara Johnson, 26 years old, former education student who had withdrawn from university last year. Currently working part-time at a local grocery store while caring for her mother, who had been diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. Marcus rubbed his temples, wondering why he couldn't get her out of his mind. Perhaps it was the genuine warmth in her embrace, even if it hadn't been meant for him. In his world of calculated business moves and people who approached him only for his wealth, that moment of mistaken authenticity had felt like a breath of fresh air. His phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. It was his sister Olivia. "Have you seen it?" she asked without preamble. "Seen what?" "The video. You getting tackle-hugged by some random woman at the airport. It's everywhere." Marcus sighed. "Yes, I've seen it. It was a simple mistake. Well, the internet is going crazy with it. Some are calling it a setup, others a meet-cute straight out of a romance movie." Olivia paused. "She was pretty though. In a natural way." "It was nothing," Marcus insisted, though even he could hear the lack of conviction in his voice. "How?" Olivia replied, clearly unconvinced. "When was the last time you gave your personal business card to nothing?" Marcus frowned. "How did you know about that?" "Your security detail talks to my security detail. Perks of being a Reed sibling." Olivia's tone turned serious. "Listen, Mark. Since Elise left, you've buried yourself in work. Maybe this is the universe giving you a nudge." Marcus thought of his ex-fiancée, who had ultimately admitted she'd been more in love with his fortune than with him. The betrayal still stung even 2 years later. "The universe should mind its own business," he muttered. Olivia laughed. "Well, if you're not interested, at least invite her to the charity gala next week. Good publicity, the billionaire and the airport hugger reunited. The press would eat it up and donations would soar." After hanging up, Marcus found himself staring at the search results for Amara Johnson again. Her social media presence was minimal, but he found a few photos. Unlike the carefully curated images that filled his social feeds, hers were simple snapshots of real life. Helping at a community garden, celebrating her brother's birthday, a hospital selfie with her mother, both of them smiling despite the circumstances. Before he could talk himself out of it, Marcus picked up his phone and dialed a number. "James, I need you to deliver something for me." The next morning, Amara was leaving for her early shift at the grocery store when she nearly tripped over a package at their apartment door. Her name was written on the elegant envelope attached. Curious, she brought it inside and called for her mother and brother. "What is it?" Samuel asked, still half asleep. Amara carefully opened the envelope first. Inside was a handwritten note. "Ms. Johnson, I hope this finds you well. I'm hosting a charity gala next Saturday benefiting cancer research and treatment access. Given your family's circumstances, I thought you might find it meaningful. The enclosed is merely a suggestion, not an expectation. I'd be honored if you would attend as my guest. Marcus Reed. With trembling fingers, Amara opened the package to find a stunning but simple black dress, clearly expensive but not ostentatious. There was also a smaller envelope containing 3 tickets to the gala. Is that from who I think it is? Esther asked, her eyes wide. Amara nodded, speechless. Samuel whistled low. Seems like your airport mistake made quite an impression. Amara stared at the invitation, her mind racing. Was this pity? Curiosity? Or something else entirely? Whatever his motivation, she couldn't deny that a gala benefiting cancer research struck close to home. And despite the vast differences in their worlds, she found herself wanting to see Marcus Reed again. What are you going to do? Her mother asked gently. Amara took a deep breath. I'm going to a gala. The week leading up to the gala passed in a blur for Amara. Between her shifts at the grocery store and helping her mother with treatments, she barely had time to process what was happening. The dress Marcus had sent fit perfectly, a simple but elegant black gown that made her feel both beautiful and comfortable, unlike the over-the-top designs she imagined wealthy women would wear. You look amazing, Esther said as Amara tried on the dress one evening. Like Cinderella going to the ball. Amara smiled but shook her head. This isn't a fairy tale, Mom. He probably just feels sorry for us after seeing that video go viral. Or his PR team thought it would make a good story. Maybe, Samuel chimed in from the doorway, or maybe he was impressed by the woman who didn't treat him like a walking bank account. Amara hadn't responded to the invitation directly, there had been no contact information included, just the tickets and the note. Part of her worried it might be some elaborate prank, that she would show up and be turned away at the door. But the bigger part of her couldn't stop thinking about those few moments at the airport, the intensity in Marcus's blue eyes when he'd looked at her. Across town, Marcus was finalizing details for the gala, an annual event that usually bored him despite its importance. This year felt different. Every decision, from the menu to the music, seemed to matter more. He found himself wondering what Amara might think of each choice. The guest list is confirmed, his assistant reported. Though we haven't received an RSVP from Ms. Johnson. She'll come, Marcus said with more confidence than he felt. He had deliberately not included his number or email, wanting to give her space to decide without pressure. But now he wondered if that had been a mistake. His sister Olivia called that evening. Tell me you didn't send a dress to airport, girl, she said when he answered. Hello to you too, Marcus replied dryly. Mark, sending expensive gifts to strangers is weird. Even billionaire weird. It wasn't expensive, he lied. The dress had been custom-made in record time by a designer friend, though he'd requested it be elegant rather than extravagant. And the gala benefits cancer research. Her mother has cancer. Olivia was silent for a moment. You researched her. Not extensively, Marcus defended himself, though the dossier his security team had compiled sat on his desk. I just wanted to know who I was inviting. Aha, Olivia didn't sound convinced. Well, I'm looking forward to meeting her. And watching how Elise reacts when she sees you've moved on. Marcus froze. Elise is coming? She's dating Senator Wilson's son now, remember? The Wilsons always attend your galas. Olivia paused. You didn't know? Marcus had forgotten completely. The thought of his ex-fiancée attending had never crossed his mind, which was strange in itself. Usually, the possibility of seeing Elise again would have dominated his thoughts before an event. It doesn't matter, he said finally. This isn't about Elise. So it is about airport girl, Olivia said triumphantly. Her name is Amara, Marcus corrected automatically, then sighed at his sister's delighted laugh. The night of the gala arrived. Amara stood in front of the small bathroom mirror, applying the last touches of her minimal makeup. Her mother was too exhausted from her treatment that day to attend, but had insisted that Amara and Samuel go without her. You both deserve a night out, she had said. And I want to hear every detail when you get back. Samuel knocked on the door. Car's here, he called. Car? Amara opened the door in surprise. I thought we were taking the bus. Samuel shrugged, looking uncomfortable in the rented suit they had splurged on. Apparently not. There's a driver downstairs saying Mr. Reed sent him. A sleek black car waited outside their apartment building, drawing curious looks from neighbors. The driver opened the door for them with a polite nod, and Amara slid into the luxurious interior, feeling increasingly out of place. You okay? Samuel asked as they drove through the city toward the upscale hotel hosting the event. Amara nodded, though her stomach was in knots. Just nervous. What am I even doing, Sam? We don't belong in this world. Samuel took her hand. You belong anywhere you want to be, sis. And besides, he added with a grin, I'm dying to see how rich people party. Do you think they have solid gold eye sculptures? Amara laughed despite her nerves. I'm guessing not. But whatever happens tonight, promise me we'll laugh about it someday. Deal, Samuel agreed as the car pulled up to a red carpet lined with photographers. Amara's heart sank. She hadn't expected this level of publicity. But before she could panic, the driver circled to a side entrance, away from the cameras. Mr. Reed thought you might prefer this entrance, Miss Johnson, he explained, opening the door. Touched by the consideration, Amara felt some of her tension ease. Perhaps Marcus Reed understood more than she had given him credit for. Inside, the ballroom was transformed into an elegant wonderland of subtle lighting and tasteful decorations. Hundreds of guests in formal wear mingled, the quiet hum of conversation punctuated by occasional laughter. Amara clutched her small purse, feeling overwhelmed. Name, please? Asked the attendant at the entrance. Amara Johnson, she replied hesitantly. And Samuel Johnson. The attendant's expression changed immediately. Ms. Johnson, of course. Mr. Reed mentioned you would be coming. Please follow me. As they were led through the crowd, Amara felt eyes turning toward them, whispers following in their wake. She caught snippets, that's her, from the airport, and Reed's mystery woman. And then the crowd seemed to part and there he was. Marcus Reed, even more imposing in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, stood talking with a small group. When his eyes found hers, his conversation stopped mid-sentence. For a moment, they simply looked at each other across the room, and Amara felt that same strange connection she had experienced at the airport. Then Marcus excused himself from his group and walked toward her, his gaze never leaving her face. The whispers around them grew louder, but Amara barely noticed. In that moment, despite all the differences in their lives, despite the improbability of their meeting, something felt undeniably right. You came, Marcus said simply when he reached her. Amara nodded, finding her voice. Thank you for the invitation. And the dress. It suits you, he replied, his eyes warming as he took in her appearance. Then he turned to Samuel, extending his hand. You must be the brother I was mistaken for. Samuel grinned as they shook hands. The one and only. Thanks for inviting us, man. Wild party. Marcus smiled, some of his formality dropping away. It's usually quite boring actually. But I'm hoping this year might be different. His eyes returned to Amara as he spoke. Before she could respond, a photographer approached. Mr. Reed, could we get a photo? Marcus looked at Amara questioningly. Only if you're comfortable, he said quietly. Amara hesitated, then nodded. As Marcus stood beside her, his hand lightly touching the small of her back, she realized something surprising. Despite the luxury surrounding them and the eyes watching their every move, she felt strangely at ease in his presence. The camera flashed, capturing the moment. The billionaire and the woman who had hugged him by mistake standing together as if they belonged that way. Neither could have guessed how that single photograph would change both their lives. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the ballroom as Amara stood beside Marcus, trying not to feel overwhelmed by the opulence surrounding them. After the photographs, he had introduced her and Samuel to a dizzying number of people. Business associates, philanthropists, and celebrities whose names Amara recognized from magazines and television. Everyone's staring, she whispered to Marcus during a brief moment alone. Not at the decorations, I'm afraid, he replied with a small smile. You've caused quite a stir. I'm sorry if I'm embarrassing you, Amara said, suddenly self-conscious again. Marcus looked genuinely surprised. Embarrassing me? Amara, you're the most authentic person in this room. Do you know how refreshing that is? He hesitated, then added more quietly, in my world people wear masks. They say what they think I want to hear. You're different. Before Amara could respond, a striking woman in a designer gown approached them, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. Marcus, darling, she said, air-kissing his cheek. The gala is wonderful as always. Thank you, Elise, Marcus replied, his tone polite but cooler than Amara had heard him speak to anyone else. Amara, this is Elise Chambers. Elise, this is Amara Johnson. Recognition flickered in Elise's eyes. The airport hugger? How quaint. She looked Amara up and down with barely disguised assessment. That's a lovely dress. Off the rack. Actually, it was a gift, Amara replied honestly, missing the implication. From Marcus, I presume? Elise raised a perfectly shaped eyebrow. He always did have excellent taste. In some things. The tension between them was palpable, and Amara suddenly understood. This woman had history with Marcus. Romantic history based on the proprietary way she still looked at him. "If you'll excuse me," Amara said, "I should check on my brother." She slipped away before either could respond, needing a moment to collect herself. She found Samuel by the elaborate buffet, happily filling a plate. "Sis, you have to try these little pastry things. I don't even know what's in them, but they're amazing." Amara smiled despite her discomfort. "Having fun? Are you kidding? This is like being in a movie." Samuel lowered his voice. "I met the star of that action series I like. Got a selfie and everything." His expression grew more serious. "How about you? Your billionaire seems pretty into you." "He's not my billionaire," Amara corrected automatically. "And I just met his ex, I think. She's exactly what you'd expect. Beautiful, sophisticated, and clearly still interested in him." Samuel shrugged. "Yeah, but he invited you here, not her." Across the room, Marcus was extracting himself from Elise's company as politely as possible. "She's quite pretty in a simple way," Elise was saying. "But Marcus, be realistic. What could you possibly have in common with someone like her?" "You don't know her," Marcus replied, his jaw tight. "Neither do you," Elise countered. "One viral moment doesn't make a relationship. People are already talking, wondering if this is some sort of publicity stunt." "I don't care what people think," Marcus said, though they both knew that wasn't entirely true. In his position, public perception mattered whether he liked it or not. "Your board of directors might," Elise reminded him. "Remember how they reacted when you wanted to redirect funds to that inner-city education project? They're traditionalists, Marcus. They expect certain things from someone in your position." Marcus didn't respond immediately, his eyes searching the crowd until he spotted Amara with her brother. Something in his expression softened. "If you'll excuse me," he said to Elise, already moving away. As he approached Amara and Samuel, Marcus felt a strange lightness he hadn't experienced in years. Despite the whispers and stares, despite Elise's warnings and his own reservations about bringing someone from such a different world into his complicated life, he couldn't deny the pull he felt toward this woman. "Rescued you from the ex, huh?" Samuel said when Marcus joined them, earning an elbow from his sister. "Samuel?" Marcus laughed, genuinely amused. "It's all right. And yes, I suppose you could say that." "She's pretty," Samuel continued, ignoring Amara's warning look. "Like scary pretty? The kind that might poison your drink if you break up with her." This time Marcus's laugh was louder, drawing attention from nearby guests. "Your brother is refreshingly direct," he told Amara. "Embarrassingly direct," she corrected, but she was smiling too. The orchestra began playing a waltz, and couples moved to the dance floor. Marcus held out his hand to Amara. "Would you dance with me?" Amara hesitated. "I don't know how to waltz." "I'll teach you," he offered. "It's easier than it looks." After a moment's hesitation, Amara placed her hand in his, allowing him to lead her to the dance floor. As his hand settled on her waist and he began guiding her through the steps, Amara felt as though everyone in the room was watching them, which she realized they probably were. "Ignore them," Marcus said softly, as if reading her thoughts. "Just focus on me." Amara looked up into his eyes, finding them warm and reassuring. Gradually, she relaxed into the dance, following his lead with increasing confidence. "You're a natural," he told her as they moved around the floor. "Or you're just a good teacher," she replied, smiling. "Tell me something about yourself," Marcus said. "Something I wouldn't find in a news story or social media." Amara considered the question. "I wanted to be a teacher. Elementary school. I was halfway through my degree when Mom got sick." "And you put it on hold to take care of her," Marcus filled in. "It wasn't a question." Amara nodded. "Family comes first. Mom raised us alone after our dad left. She worked so hard to give us opportunities. When she needed us, there was no question." "You could go back," Marcus suggested. "Finish your degree." "Someday," Amara agreed. "When Mom is better and we're more financially stable." She changed the subject, not wanting to dwell on the uncertainty of both those conditions. "What about you? Tell me something I wouldn't read in a business magazine." Marcus was quiet for a moment, thinking. "I hate these events," he finally said. "I host them because they raise money for good causes, but I usually count the minutes until I can leave." "And tonight?" Amara asked. His eyes met hers again. "Tonight I'm exactly where I want to be." The directness of his gaze made Amara's heart beat faster. This made no sense. They were from completely different worlds, had met by accident just over a week ago. And yet, as they danced among the city's elite, something was growing between them that neither could easily dismiss. As the evening progressed, Amara found herself genuinely enjoying Marcus's company. Behind the public persona of the serious businessman was a man with a dry sense of humor, a passion for the educational charities his foundation supported, and a thoughtfulness she hadn't expected. During a break in the dancing, Marcus led her to a quieter corner of the ballroom. "How is your mother's treatment going?" he asked. The question caught Amara off guard. "It's difficult," she admitted. "The doctors are optimistic, but the side effects are hard on her. And the bills keep coming." Marcus nodded, understanding. "The hospital where she's being treated, it's Memorial, right?" "Yes," Amara replied, surprised. "How did you know?" Marcus looked slightly uncomfortable. "I may have done some research before inviting you tonight. I hope that doesn't seem intrusive." In another context it might have, but Amara appreciated his honesty. "It's okay. And yes, she's at Memorial. They have a good oncology department, but even with insurance the costs are overwhelming. Memorial is one of the hospitals that receives funding from tonight's gala," Marcus told her. "Specifically for patients who need financial assistance with cancer treatments." Amara's eyes widened slightly. "I didn't know that. That's why I thought you might find the event meaningful," Marcus explained. "Though I had other reasons for wanting you here," he added quietly. Their conversation was interrupted by the announcement that the fundraising portion of the evening was beginning. Marcus excused himself to take the stage, delivering a brief but powerful speech about the importance of accessible healthcare and cancer research. Watching him address the crowd with confidence and genuine passion, Amara saw yet another side of Marcus Reed. Not the billionaire from the headlines or the charming dance partner, but a man using his influence to make a real difference. When the formal part of the evening concluded, Marcus found Amara again. "Would you like to get some air?" he suggested. "There's a garden terrace." The terrace was blessedly quiet after the noise of the ballroom, with fairy lights twinkling among the plants and the city skyline providing a spectacular backdrop. "This is beautiful," Amara said, breathing in the cool night air. "I come out here at every event," Marcus admitted. "It's my escape." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, looking out at the city lights. Then Marcus turned to face her. "Amara, I have a confession to make," he said. "Inviting you tonight wasn't just about the charity connection or good publicity as my sister suggested." "No?" Amara asked softly. Marcus shook his head. "The truth is, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since that day at the airport. About the way you looked at me, not as a billionaire or a CEO, but just as a person who happened to be wearing the same jacket as your brother." He smiled slightly at the memory. "Do you know how rare that is in my life?" Amara didn't know what to say. Part of her was thrilled at his words, while another part remained cautious. "Marcus, we barely know each other. And our lives are so different." "I know," he interrupted gently. "And I'm not suggesting we rush into anything. But I'd like the chance to know you better if you're willing." Before Amara could respond, the terrace door opened and Samuel appeared. "Sorry to interrupt," he said, looking between them, "but Mom just called. She's not feeling well." Worry immediately replaced all other emotions for Amara. "We need to go," she said to Marcus. "Of course," he replied without hesitation. "I'll have my driver take you home right away." He took her hand. "Amara, thank you for coming tonight. Whatever happens next is entirely up to you, but I hope I'll see you again." As the car sped them back to their apartment, Amara's mind was torn between concern for her mother and the unexpected turn her evening had taken. Marcus Reed, one of the wealthiest men in the country, wanted to get to know her better. It seemed impossible, like something from a storybook rather than real life. "He likes you," Samuel said simply as they neared home. "Like really likes you." "It's complicated," Amara replied. Samuel shrugged. "Most good things are." As they rushed into their apartment to check on their mother, Amara pushed thoughts of Marcus aside. Family came first, that had always been her reality. But for the first time she allowed herself to wonder if there might be room in her life for something more. The morning after the gala, Amara woke early, her mind still processing the events of the previous night. Her mother had been experiencing severe nausea from her latest treatment, but was resting comfortably now. Amara made coffee and checked her phone, nearly dropping it when she saw the notifications. The photo of her dancing with Marcus had gone viral overnight. "Airport hugger and billionaire. The romance we didn't know we needed," read one headline. Another proclaimed, "Marcus Reed's mystery woman identified. The heartwarming story behind their meeting." "Oh no," Amara murmured, scrolling through the stories. Most were speculative, painting their connection as everything from a fairy tale romance to a calculated publicity stunt. Her phone rang, an unknown number. Hesitantly she answered. Amara Johnson? A woman's crisp voice asked. Yes. This is Vanessa Wright from Good Morning America. We'd love to have you on our show to discuss your relationship with Marcus Reed. There is no relationship, Amara interrupted, her heart racing. I'm sorry, but I have no comment. She hung up, only for the phone to ring again moments later with another media request. After the fifth call, Amara turned off her phone. Samuel emerged from his room looking bleary-eyed. What's with all the calls? He asked. Amara showed him the news stories. It's crazy. Why do people care so much about this? Because it's like a movie, Samuel replied simply. Poor girl meets rich guy by accident. People eat that stuff up. Well, I don't want to be in their movie, Amara said firmly. She needed to check on her mother and get to her shift at the grocery store, not deal with media interest in a non-existent romance. But when she arrived at work, she found several reporters waiting. Her manager pulled her aside. I can't have this disruption, Amara, he said apologetically. Maybe take a few days off until this blows over? Feeling both angry and helpless, Amara left through the back entrance. She needed to talk to Marcus. This was affecting her real life now. But she had no way to contact him directly. She'd never even looked at the business card he'd given her at the airport, assuming it would just have his company's general information. Digging through her wallet, she finally found it. To her surprise, a personal cell number was handwritten on the back with a simple note. If you ever want to reach me directly. Meanwhile, Marcus was in his office, dealing with his own media storm. His assistant had compiled a list of interview requests and news stories, most of which he declined to comment on. His phone buzzed with a text from an unfamiliar number. It's Amara. We need to talk about this media situation. Reporters are at my workplace and I've basically been told not to come in. This is affecting my real life. Marcus's response was immediate. I'm so sorry. Where are you now? Can I send a car? Amara hesitated before replying. I'm at the coffee shop 2 blocks from my apartment. But I don't want more attention. I understand. I'll come to you. Just me, no security. Give me 30 minutes. Exactly 30 minutes later, Marcus walked into the small coffee shop. He wore jeans and a baseball cap pulled low, a far cry from the polished businessman of the previous night. Despite the simple disguise, Amara recognized him immediately. He slid into the seat across from her, concern evident in his eyes. I'm so sorry about this, he said before she could speak. I should have anticipated the media reaction better. It's not your fault, Amara sighed. I knew there would be attention when I agreed to attend the gala. I just didn't expect it to affect my job. They asked you not to come in? Amara nodded. My manager said to take a few days off until it blows over. But I need those hours, Marcus. Mom's medical bills don't pay themselves. Marcus was quiet for a moment, clearly thinking. The media cycle moves quickly. This will fade in a few days when something new catches their attention. He hesitated, then added, but there is something we could do to speed that process. What's that? Give them what they want. One interview together to set the record straight. We say we met by chance. I invited you to the gala because of your mother's connection to the cause, and we're getting to know each other as friends. No fairy tale romance, no scandal. Just the simple truth. Amara considered this. Would that really help? It might. Once there's an official story, many outlets will move on. He reached across the table, hesitantly taking her hand. But I want to be clear about something. While we would be downplaying things for the media, I meant what I said last night. I do want to get to know you better. The warmth of his hand on hers was distracting, but Amara forced herself to think practically. Even if this media attention dies down, how would that even work? Your life and mine are completely different. Different doesn't mean incompatible, Marcus replied. At least give us a chance to find out. Before Amara could answer, her phone rang, her mother's ringtone. She answered immediately, her expression changing to one of alarm as she listened. I'll be right there, she said, hanging up. Mom's being taken to the hospital. Her fever is dangerously high. Marcus stood. My car is outside. Let's go. During the ride to the hospital, Amara barely spoke, her thoughts entirely focused on her mother. Marcus respected her silence, simply offering his presence as support. When they arrived, he stayed in the background as Amara and Samuel talked to the doctors. The news wasn't good. The infection was serious, a common but dangerous complication for patients with weakened immune systems from chemotherapy. Esther Johnson was admitted immediately, leaving Amara and Samuel to wait anxiously for updates. Hours passed. Marcus quietly arranged for food to be delivered to the waiting room and made some calls, ensuring that Esther would receive the hospital's best care. As night fell, Samuel finally convinced Amara to go home and rest, promising to call if there was any change. Marcus insisted on driving her. "You shouldn't be alone tonight," he said as they approached her apartment building. "Is there a friend I could call for you?" Amara shook her head. "Most of my close friends have moved away for jobs or graduate school. It's mainly been just family since Mom got sick." She looked at him, vulnerability clear in her eyes. Would you stay for a while? Just until I fall asleep?" Marcus nodded without hesitation. Of course. Inside the small apartment, Amara was suddenly self-conscious of the shabby furniture and peeling paint, such a contrast to the luxury Marcus was accustomed to. But if he noticed, he gave no indication, instead asking practical questions about what she needed. "Just sit with me?" Amara requested, settling onto the worn couch. Marcus joined her, and after a moment's hesitation, put his arm around her shoulders. She leaned into him, drawing comfort from his solid presence. "She has to be okay," Amara whispered. "I can't lose her." "The doctors seemed confident once they start the antibiotics," Marcus reassured her. "And Memorial has an excellent infectious disease team." They sat in silence for a while, until Amara eventually drifted into an exhausted sleep against his shoulder. Marcus carefully adjusted her position so she would be comfortable, then gently covered her with the throw blanket from the couch. Instead of leaving, he settled into a nearby chair, not wanting her to wake alone if she received news from the hospital. In the quiet darkness, Marcus studied Amara's sleeping face. How strange that this woman he'd met by chance had so quickly become important to him. His phone vibrated with messages from his assistant about tomorrow's meetings, but for once, Marcus found he didn't care about work deadlines or business obligations. All that mattered was being here, offering what comfort he could to someone who had genuinely touched his heart. Morning came with better news. Samuel called to report that their mother's fever had broken, and the doctors were cautiously optimistic. Amara woke to find Marcus still there, having dozed off in the uncomfortable chair. "You stayed," she said, surprised and touched. Marcus rubbed his neck, stiff from the awkward sleeping position. "I didn't want you to be alone if there was bad news." He checked his watch. "I have a board meeting at 9, but I can cancel." "No," Amara interrupted. "You've done more than enough. Go to your meeting. I need to get to the hospital anyway." As he stood to leave, Marcus turned to her. "Amara, about the interview idea, you don't have to decide now. Your mother is the priority. But if you want my help managing this situation, just say the word." Amara nodded gratefully. "Thank you. For everything." After he left, Amara took a quick shower and prepared to head to the hospital. As she was gathering her things, there was a knock at the door. Thinking Marcus had forgotten something, she opened it without checking first. Instead of Marcus, she found herself face to face with Elise Chambers. "Ms. Johnson," Elise said coolly. "May I come in? I believe we need to talk." Stunned, Amara stepped aside. Elise entered, her designer outfit and perfect appearance making the modest apartment seem even shabbier. "I'll be brief," Elise said, declining to sit. "I saw Marcus leaving your building this morning. Things appear to be moving quickly between you two." "It's not what you think," Amara began, but Elise raised a hand to stop her. "What I think doesn't matter. But what the public thinks, what Marcus's business associates and board members think, that matters a great deal." Elise's expression softened slightly. "Look, I don't doubt that you're a nice person caught up in an unexpected situation. But you need to understand the reality of Marcus's world." "And what's that?" Amara asked, her voice steady despite her discomfort. "His position comes with expectations and responsibilities. The company he built employs thousands of people. His decisions affect lives and livelihoods." Elise paused. "Do you know why our engagement ended?" Amara shook her head. "Because I chose my career over the role of corporate wife. I wasn't willing to give up my own ambitions to stand beside him at events and manage charity foundations." Elise looked directly at Amara. "Could you give up your dreams of teaching to attend board member dinners and charity galas? Could you handle the constant scrutiny, the opinions of people who will judge everything from your clothes to your background?" "I don't know," Amara admitted honestly. "I hadn't thought that far ahead." "Exactly," Elise nodded. "And Marcus hasn't either. He's infatuated with the novelty of someone who isn't part of his usual circle. But novelty wears off and reality sets in. She moved toward the door. I'm not saying this to be cruel. I'm saying it because someone should give you the full picture before you or Marcus get any more invested in something that can't last. After Elise left, Amara sat down heavily, her mind racing. Had she been naive to think there could be anything real between her and Marcus? Their worlds were so different, and as Elise had pointed out, a relationship would mean navigating much more than just personal compatibility. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. How's your mother this morning? Can I do anything? Amara stared at the message, unsure how to respond. She needed time to think, to focus on her mother's recovery without the complications of whatever was happening with Marcus. But she also couldn't deny the connection she felt with him, or the kindness he had shown her family. Finally she replied, Mom's doing better. Heading to the hospital now. Thank you for last night, but I think I need some space to process everything. My family has to be my priority right now. Marcus's response came quickly. I understand completely. Take all the time you need. I'm here if you need anything at all. The simple message brought unexpected tears to Amara's eyes. Despite Elise's warnings and her own doubts, there was something about Marcus Reed that continued to surprise her. A genuine thoughtfulness behind the billionaire facade that she couldn't easily dismiss. As she headed to the hospital, Amara pushed thoughts of Marcus aside. Her mother needed her full attention now. Whatever was happening between her and Marcus would have to wait. What she didn't know was that Marcus had already set certain plans in motion. Plans that would intersect with her life in ways she couldn't imagine, for better or worse. A week passed. Esther Johnson's condition improved enough for her to return home, though she remained weak from both the infection and her ongoing cancer treatments. Amara took on additional responsibilities, coordinating her mother's care while trying to find a new job after the grocery store had permanently replaced her. Through it all, Marcus kept his distance as she had requested, sending only occasional brief messages to check on Esther's recovery. Each time, Amara responded politely but briefly, still uncertain about what she wanted. You should talk to him, Samuel told her one evening as they shared a simple dinner. He clearly cares. It's complicated, Amara sighed. After what Elise said. You're letting his ex-girlfriend make your decisions? Samuel raised an eyebrow. The same woman who has every reason to keep him single or steer him back to her? Amara shook her head. It's not that simple. The things she said made sense. Our worlds are completely different. So, different can be good. Samuel leaned forward. Sis, you've put your whole life on hold to take care of Mom and me. For once, something unexpected and potentially amazing has happened to you. Don't talk yourself out of it without at least giving it a chance. Before Amara could respond, there was a knock at their door. Samuel answered it, returning with a formal-looking envelope. It's for you, he said, handing it to Amara. From Memorial Hospital. Frowning, Amara opened the envelope. Inside was a letter stating that an anonymous donor had paid all of her mother's outstanding medical bills and established a fund to cover her remaining treatments and medications. The letter estimated the total value at over $100,000. Oh my God, Amara whispered, showing the letter to Samuel. It has to be Marcus, Samuel said immediately. Amara nodded slowly. It couldn't be anyone else. But instead of feeling grateful, she felt a complex mix of emotions. Appreciation, yes, but also discomfort and a touch of anger. While the financial relief was enormous, she hadn't asked for this kind of help. It felt like Marcus was trying to solve her problems with money, something she had specifically wanted to avoid. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Can we talk? I'm in your neighborhood. Amara hesitated, then replied, Meet me at the park on the corner in 15 minutes. The small neighborhood park was quiet in the evening, with just a few people walking dogs or sitting on benches. Amara spotted Marcus immediately, again dressed casually in jeans and a simple sweater rather than his usual business attire. Thank you for meeting me, he said as she approached. Did you pay my mother's medical bills? Amara asked directly, skipping any greeting. Marcus met her gaze steadily. Yes. Why didn't you ask me first? Would you have accepted if I had? Amara hesitated. Probably not, she admitted. That's why. Marcus gestured to a nearby bench and they both sat. Amara, I have more money than I could spend in several lifetimes. Using some of it to help your mother get the treatment she needs without the added stress of financial burden? That seems like exactly what money should be for. But it makes things uneven between us, Amara argued. I can never repay you. I don't want you to repay me, Marcus said simply. That's not how gifts work. Amara was quiet for a moment, struggling with her feelings. Elise came to see me, she finally said. The morning after you stayed. Marcus's expression darkened. She had no right to do that. Maybe not, but she made some good points. Amara looked at him directly. About how different our worlds are. About the expectations that come with your position. Elise has her own agenda, Marcus replied. Her perspective isn't objective. But was she wrong? Amara pressed. Your life involves charity galas and board meetings and public scrutiny. Mine involves taking care of my family and trying to finish my teaching degree someday. Marcus leaned back, considering his response. Different doesn't mean incompatible, he repeated his words from the coffee shop. Look, I'm not asking for lifelong commitments here. I'm just asking for a chance to see where this connection between us might lead. He smiled slightly. Besides, I think I might benefit from having someone in my life who values things beyond corporate success and social status. Despite her reservations, Amara found herself smiling back. So what are you suggesting? Let's just spend time together. No pressure, no public appearances, no media. Just us getting to know each other as people. It sounded reasonable when he put it that way. And despite all her logical objections, Amara couldn't deny that she wanted to know him better too. Okay, she agreed finally. But I have conditions. Name them, Marcus said immediately. First, no more anonymous donations or expensive gifts. I appreciate what you did for my mother, more than I can express, but I need to know you respect my independence. Marcus nodded. Fair enough. Second, I need this to stay private for now. No more viral photos or news stories. I'll do my best, Marcus promised, though I can't control the media entirely. And third, Amara took a deep breath. I need honesty. Complete honesty. If at any point you realize this isn't working or it's too complicated, tell me immediately. I can definitely promise that, Marcus said. As long as it goes both ways. They sealed their agreement with a handshake that lingered just a moment longer than necessary, both feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation about what might come next. Over the following weeks, Marcus and Amara carved out time to get to know each other away from public scrutiny. They discovered shared interests in education reform and community development, and complementary differences that made their conversations engaging. Marcus was impressed by Amara's practical intelligence and genuine compassion, while she came to appreciate his strategic thinking and the principled way he approached his business responsibilities. They developed a routine of sorts. Marcus would visit Amara's apartment in the evenings, often bringing takeout food but being careful not to always choose expensive restaurants. Sometimes they would simply talk for hours. Other times they would help Samuel with college applications or sit with Esther, whose health was gradually improving. He's nothing like I expected, Esther confided to Amara one afternoon while Marcus was deep in conversation with Samuel about scholarship opportunities. When you first told me about him, I pictured someone different. Arrogant? Entitled? Amara suggested. Esther smiled. Something like that. But he's so normal in many ways. The way he listens when people talk. The way he offers help without making you feel small for needing it. Amara had noticed the same things. The Marcus Reed she was coming to know was thoughtful and often funny, with a dry wit she hadn't expected. He worked incredibly hard but spoke of his wealth as a responsibility rather than a privilege. Most surprisingly, he seemed genuinely interested in her world, her plans to become a teacher, her ideas about education, her relationships with family and community. One evening, about a month into their private getting-to-know-you period, Marcus invited Amara to his penthouse apartment. It was the first time she had seen where he lived. I feel like I should have brought white gloves for inspection, she joked as they rode the private elevator. Marcus laughed. It's just an apartment. An unnecessarily large one, I'll admit. When the doors opened directly into his home, Amara gasped despite herself. Just an apartment was a dramatic understatement. The space was stunning, all clean lines, floor-to-ceiling windows, and tasteful artwork. But what surprised her most was that it didn't feel cold or show-offy as she had expected. There were books everywhere, comfortable-looking furniture, family photos, and signs of actual living rather than just displaying wealth. This is beautiful, she said honestly. Thank you. But it's just space, Marcus replied, leading her to the kitchen. I thought we could cook dinner together tonight instead of ordering in. I have all the ingredients for pasta, if that sounds good. Amara smiled at this unexpected suggestion. I didn't know billionaires cooked. This one does. Not well, but enthusiastically. Marcus rolled up his sleeves. My grandfather insisted I learn. He said a man who can't feed himself isn't really independent, no matter how much money he has. As they prepared the meal together, moving around the kitchen with surprising ease, Amara realized she was feeling something she hadn't expected, a sense of belonging. Despite the luxury surrounding them, there was something fundamentally normal about chopping vegetables and arguing about the right amount of garlic to add to the sauce. Later, as they ate on his terrace overlooking the city lights, Marcus grew more serious. "There's something I need to tell you," he said. "About work." Amara tensed slightly. "What is it?" "I've been offered an opportunity to expand our educational technology division into several developing countries. It would mean creating affordable tablets and educational software for schools with limited resources." "That sounds amazing," Amara said sincerely. "It is," Marcus agreed. "It's exactly the kind of project I've wanted to pursue for years. But it would mean significant travel over the next few months: Africa, India, Southeast Asia." "Oh," Amara said, understanding dawning. "So you'd be gone?" Marcus nodded. "4 weeks at a time, most likely. And I wanted to discuss it with you before making a final decision." Amara was surprised. "What?" "I mean, it's your company and your decision. Because whatever this is between us," Marcus gestured between them, "it's becoming important to me. And taking on this project would affect the time we could spend together, at least in the short term." The simple admission touched Amara deeply. No one besides her family had ever factored her into their major life decisions before. "You should do it," she said without hesitation. "It's an incredible opportunity to make a difference. We can figure out the rest." Marcus studied her face. "You're sure?" "Absolutely." Amara smiled. "Besides, there's this amazing technology called video calls. I hear even billionaires use it sometimes." Marcus laughed, relief evident in his expression. "You're remarkable, you know that?" Their eyes met across the table, and Amara felt that now familiar connection strengthened further. Whatever doubts she still harbored about their different worlds, she couldn't deny that something real was growing between them, something worth exploring despite the complications. As Marcus drove her home later that evening, Amara found herself thinking about Elise's warnings. Yes, their worlds were different. Yes, a relationship between them would face challenges beyond the normal ones. But perhaps those differences could be strengths rather than obstacles, offering each of them perspectives they wouldn't have on their own. When they reached her apartment building, Marcus walked her to the door as always. This time, however, instead of their usual friendly goodnight, Amara made a decision. Rising on tiptoes, she kissed him softly. Marcus responded immediately, his arms encircling her waist as he returned the kiss with gentle intensity. When they finally broke apart, both were slightly breathless. "I've been wanting to do that for weeks," Marcus admitted. "What took you so long?" Amara teased. "I was trying to be respectful of your boundaries," he replied honestly. "And maybe a little afraid of ruining whatever this is by moving too quickly." Amara smiled, touched by his consideration. "I think we're past that point now." As she went inside, Amara felt a new lightness in her step. The future remained uncertain, especially with Marcus's upcoming travel. Their worlds were still vastly different. But for the first time, she allowed herself to believe that perhaps those weren't insurmountable obstacles, just challenges to navigate together. What she didn't realize was that their greatest challenge was yet to come, from a direction neither of them expected. Marcus sat at the head of the long conference table, listening as his chief financial officer finished presenting the quarterly results. Around him, the 12 members of Reed Technologies' board of directors were making notes or studying the financial reports. It was a typical board meeting, until the final agenda item. Now, regarding the proposed educational initiative in developing markets, the CFO concluded, "We have concerns about the profit margins and return on investment." Marcus leaned forward. "As I've explained, this initiative isn't primarily about immediate ROI. It's about long-term market development and corporate responsibility." Harold Whitman, the oldest board member and a significant shareholder, cleared his throat. "Marcus, we've supported your philanthropic interest through the foundation. But this is a business decision that affects shareholder value." "Education is a business opportunity," Marcus countered. "Creating affordable technology for underserved markets develops future consumers while addressing a critical need." "Perhaps," Whitman conceded. "But our analysis suggests the project as currently structured would barely break even for at least 5 years. That's difficult to justify to our investors." Other board members nodded in agreement. Marcus felt frustration building but kept his expression neutral. "There's another matter that's been raised," Whitman continued, his tone becoming more careful. The board has some concerns about recent, personal developments and their potential impact on company perception. Marcus stiffened. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Whitman looked uncomfortable but pressed on. Your relationship with Ms. Johnson has generated significant media interest. While your personal life is your own affair, the board is concerned about potential distractions or public relations complications. My relationship with Amara has nothing to do with company operations, Marcus said coldly. Under normal circumstances I would agree, Whitman replied. But these aren't normal circumstances. The media attention has been substantial, and some of our more conservative investment partners have expressed concerns. Concerns about what, exactly? Marcus demanded. Another board member, Elizabeth Chen, interjected more diplomatically. I think what Harold is trying to say is that there are perceptions to manage. The optics of your relationship have created certain narratives in the press, from Cinderella story to suggestions of a publicity stunt. It's becoming a distraction from our business goals. Marcus looked around the table, reading the expressions of people he had worked with for years. Some appeared genuinely uncomfortable with the discussion. Others seemed to be assessing his reaction for signs of how it might affect the company. So what exactly are you suggesting? He asked, though he already suspected the answer. Whitman exchanged glances with several other board members before responding. We believe it would be in the company's best interest if you maintained a lower personal profile for the time being. Perhaps postpone any public appearances with Ms. Johnson until the media interest subsides. Marcus felt a cold anger settling in his chest. And if I don't agree? Then we would have serious reservations about approving the educational initiative as proposed, Whitman said bluntly. The board needs to be confident that your focus is where it needs to be. The implied ultimatum hung in the air. Marcus stood, buttoning his jacket with deliberate calm. I believe we've covered all necessary business for today, he said. I'll take the board's feedback under advisement. Meeting adjourned. As the board members filed out, Marcus remained standing at the head of the table, his mind racing. He had built Reed Technologies from nothing, turning a dorm room startup into a global corporation. The board had legal authority in many areas, but he remained the largest individual shareholder and CEO. They couldn't force his hand directly, but they could certainly make things difficult for projects he cared about. His assistant entered after the others had left. Your 3 o'clock appointment cancelled. Would you like me to reschedule? No, Marcus decided. I'm going out. Clear my calendar for the rest of the day. 30 minutes later, Marcus was knocking on Amara's apartment door. Samuel answered, looking surprised. Hey man. Amara's at her new job interview. She should be back soon if you want to wait. Marcus had forgotten about the interview, a teaching assistant position at a local elementary school that Amara was excited about. Right. Of course. I'll wait if that's okay. Samuel let him in. Everything all right? You look like you want to punch something. Marcus managed a tight smile. Just board politics. Nothing unusual. Rich people problems? Samuel nodded sagely. Want a beer? The casual question made Marcus laugh despite his mood. Sure. Why not? They settled in the living room, Samuel seemingly unintimidated by Marcus's obvious tension. So, these board politics, he said after a few minutes. They about my sister? Marcus looked at him sharply. What makes you say that? Samuel shrugged. Not hard to figure out. You've been dating for what, a month or so? Keeping it mostly private? Then suddenly you show up in the middle of a workday looking like someone just insulted your grandmother. Doesn't take a genius. Marcus sighed. They think she's a distraction. That our relationship is generating the wrong kind of attention for the company. And what do you think? Samuel asked directly. I think it's none of their damn business, Marcus replied with feeling. But unfortunately, they can block a project I care about if I don't agree to their terms. Which are? Essentially to keep Amara out of the public eye. No official relationship status, no public appearances together. Samuel was quiet for a moment. That's pretty messed up. Yes, it is, Marcus agreed. So what are you going to do? It was the same question Marcus had been asking himself since leaving the board meeting. Before he could answer, they heard a key in the lock. Amara entered, her face lighting up when she saw Marcus. This is a nice surprise, she said, coming to kiss him. Then she noticed his expression. What's wrong? Samuel stood. I just remembered I have that thing at that place. He grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. Later. Once they were alone, Marcus told Amara everything about the board meeting. She listened quietly, her expression growing more troubled. So they're basically saying it's either me or your education project? She finally asked. They're trying to present it that way, Marcus confirmed. But it's not a choice I'm willing to make. What options do we have? Amara asked practically. Marcus was struck, not for the first time, by her approach to problems, not emotional outbursts or accusations, but immediately looking for solutions. It was one of the many things he had come to admire about her. Several actually, he said. I'm still the CEO and largest shareholder. I can push back against the board, though that could create other complications. Or we could simply continue as we have been, keeping our relationship relatively private while I work on bringing individual board members around to my point of view on the education initiative. Amara was thoughtful. Is there a third option? We could call their bluff, Marcus suggested. Go public with our relationship officially, make it clear this is not a passing interest, and demonstrate that it in no way affects my ability to run the company effectively. That sounds intense, Amara said cautiously. And potentially like throwing gasoline on a fire. Marcus nodded. It could be. But I'm tired of letting others dictate the terms of my life, personal or professional. Amara moved to sit beside him, taking his hand. I appreciate your willingness to fight for this, for us. But I also don't want to be the reason your important project gets derailed. Children in those countries need the educational resources you're trying to provide. So what are you suggesting? Marcus asked, though he suspected he knew. Maybe option 2 is the wise path for now, Amara said. We continue as we have been, privately building what we have, while you work on the board members individually. It's not ideal, but it's practical. Marcus studied her face. You're remarkable, you know that? Most people would be either furious at the board or demanding I make some grand gesture. Amara smiled slightly. I've never been much for grand gestures. And being furious, while temporarily satisfying, rarely solves problems. Marcus pulled her close, kissing her forehead. Have I told you lately how glad I am that you hugged the wrong man at that airport? Once or twice, Amara replied, her smile widening. But I don't mind hearing it again. They spent the evening discussing both the board situation and Amara's job interview, which had gone well. As they talked, Marcus found his earlier anger fading, replaced by determination. The board had underestimated him if they thought they could force his hand with thinly veiled threats. And they had severely underestimated Amara if they thought she was simply a distraction. Later that night, as Marcus was preparing to leave, Amara remembered her news from the interview. Oh, and if I get the job, they want me to start next week, which means I could begin my teaching credential program in the evening. It would be part-time, but at least I'd be working toward my degree again. The joy in her voice as she talked about this possibility reminded Marcus of why he had fallen for her in the first place. Her genuine passion for education and helping others. It was so different from the calculated ambition he encountered in his business world. That's wonderful, he told her sincerely. And perfect timing since I'll be starting the international trips soon. We'll both be busy with meaningful work. Amara nodded, though her expression dimmed slightly at the reminder of his upcoming travel. When do you leave? Next Monday. Ghana first, then Kenya. I'll be gone about 2 weeks. I'll miss you, Amara said simply. I'll miss you too. But we'll talk every day, Marcus promised. And I'll be thinking about you constantly. As he drove home that night, Marcus found himself at a crossroads. The practical solution was to follow Amara's suggestion, continue their relationship privately while working on the board members individually. But something about that approach felt wrong, like he was allowing them to dictate terms in an area where they had no right to interfere. By the time he reached his apartment, Marcus had made a decision. He wouldn't let the board control his personal life, nor would he let them block a project that could help millions of children gain access to education. There had to be another way forward. One that didn't require sacrificing either the woman he was falling in love with or the work he believed in. What he needed was leverage, and he knew exactly where to find it. The next morning, Marcus called an old friend who had covered Reed Technologies for the Wall Street Journal for years. Jim, I think it's time for that profile piece you've been asking about. The one about our educational initiatives and corporate responsibility programs. The following day, a detailed article appeared highlighting Reed Technologies' commitment to education in developing markets. It included quotes from several major investors praising the company's forward-thinking approach to market development and social responsibility. Without directly addressing the board's concerns, Marcus had effectively created public momentum for the very initiative they were threatening to block. When his assistant informed him that several board members had called requesting meetings, Marcus smiled. Sometimes the best way to win wasn't direct confrontation, but changing the battlefield entirely. What he didn't know was that while he was outmaneuvering the board, other forces were at work that would soon test his relationship with Amara in ways neither of them could anticipate. The first week of Marcus's international trip passed quickly for both of them. Amara started her new position as a teaching assistant and enrolled in evening classes for her teaching credential. Marcus spent his days in meetings with education ministers and local school officials in Ghana, working to design technology solutions that would actually serve their specific needs rather than imposing Western assumptions. They spoke daily by video call, sharing the details of their days and growing closer despite the physical distance. Amara loved seeing the excitement in Marcus's eyes as he talked about the project, while he enjoyed hearing her stories about the children in her classroom and her renewed progress toward her teaching degree. "The kids are amazing," Amara told him during one call. "There's this one boy, Damon, who struggled so much at the beginning of the year. Today he read an entire paragraph by himself. You should have seen his face when he realized what he'd accomplished when they finally broke apart." Both slightly breathless, Amara became aware of applause erupting around them. People were cheering, taking photos, some even wiping away tears at witnessing what appeared to be a real-life fairy tale moment. "Well, that's going to be on the internet in about 5 minutes, Samuel joked, but his eyes were warm with approval. "I don't care," Marcus said, his arms still around Amara's waist. "I'm done hiding how I feel." Esther stood, embracing both of them. "Sometimes the right path isn't the easy one," she said softly. "But that doesn't make it any less right." As the initial excitement died down and the crowd began to disperse, Marcus turned to Amara with a more serious expression. "There's something else I wanted to talk to you about. A proposal of sorts." "That sounds serious," Amara replied, suddenly nervous. "Not that kind of proposal," Marcus clarified with a smile. "At least not yet. This is about your teaching career." He explained that during his trip to Kenya, he had been particularly impressed by a community school that was achieving remarkable results despite limited resources. The school's director had mentioned wanting to establish a teacher exchange program with American educators. "They're looking for someone with elementary education background to help train their teachers in new literacy methods," Marcus concluded. "When they described what they needed, I immediately thought of you." Amara blinked in surprise. "Me? But I'm still working on my credentials." "Which you could continue online while gaining international teaching experience," Marcus pointed out. "It would be a 6-month position initially, with the possibility of extension if it works well for everyone." 6 months in Kenya, Amara repeated, trying to process the idea. "That's a huge change." "I know," Marcus acknowledged. "And if it's not something you're interested in, that's completely fine. But I thought it might be an opportunity that combines your teaching passion with a chance to make a difference on a broader scale." "And where would you be during these 6 months?" Amara asked, already suspecting the answer. Marcus smiled. "As it happens, Reed Technologies is establishing our African headquarters in Nairobi, about an hour from the school. I'll be spending significant time there over the next year as we implement the Educational Technology Initiative." Samuel laughed. "Smooth man. Very smooth." Amara couldn't help laughing too. "So we'd both be in Kenya, working on separate but connected projects. Building something meaningful together, but maintaining our individual professional identities," Marcus confirmed. It seemed like a potential solution to some of our challenges. A fresh start, away from the media circus here. The idea was both terrifying and exhilarating. Leaving everything familiar behind, taking her teaching ambitions to an international level, building a relationship with Marcus in a completely new context. It was a bigger leap than Amara had ever contemplated. "What about Mom's treatments?" she asked, the practical concern immediately surfacing. "All arranged," Esther answered before Marcus could speak. "Dr. Patel says I'm responding so well that we can space out the remaining sessions. And Samuel will be here," she added, squeezing her son's shoulder. "Plus, Kenya has excellent hospitals if Mom wants to visit," Marcus added. "I've already checked." Amara shook her head in amazement. "You've thought of everything, haven't you?" "I've tried," Marcus admitted. "But ultimately this is your decision. Your career, your path. I'm simply offering an option that might work for both of us." Amara looked between her mother and brother, seeing nothing but encouragement in their faces. Then she turned back to Marcus, studying the man who had entered her life so unexpectedly just a few months ago. "You know what? Let's do it," she said decisively. "Let's go to Kenya." The joy on Marcus's face confirmed she had made the right choice. Whatever challenges lay ahead, and there would undoubtedly be many, they would face them together, stronger for the differences that had initially seemed to separate them. 6 weeks later, Amara stood in the international terminal of the same airport where she had first hugged Marcus by mistake. Her family was there to see them off, along with Marcus's sister Olivia, who had become an unexpected ally in navigating the media attention that had followed their public declaration of love. "Ready for this adventure?" Marcus asked, taking her hand as they prepared to board. Amara nodded, feeling a mix of nervousness and excitement. "Ready as I'll ever be." As they walked toward the gate, Amara glanced back one last time at her family. Samuel gave her a thumbs up, while Esther blew a kiss, looking healthier than she had in months. The medical fund Marcus had established had ensured she would receive the best possible care, and recent tests had shown the cancer was in remission. "You know," Amara said as they settled into their first-class seats, Marcus's one non-negotiable luxury for the long flight, "a year ago, I never could have imagined any of this." "What part?" Marcus asked, genuinely curious. "Dating a billionaire? Moving to Kenya? Becoming an international educator?" "All of it," Amara laughed. "But mostly finding someone who sees me so completely. Who challenges me to grow beyond what I thought was possible." Marcus squeezed her hand. "That goes both ways, you know. You've changed me too, reminded me what truly matters beyond business success and wealth." As the plane took off, carrying them toward their shared future, Amara thought about the strange sequence of events that had brought them together. A simple mistake, hugging the wrong man in an airport, had set in motion a journey neither of them could have anticipated. Their worlds had been so different at the start. A billionaire CEO and a struggling teaching assistant seemed like an unlikely match by any standard. But beneath the surface differences, they had found a connection based on shared values, mutual respect, and eventually love. There would still be challenges ahead. The differences in their backgrounds wouldn't magically disappear. The public interest in their relationship would likely continue, and they would both need to learn and grow as they built a life together. But as Amara looked at Marcus beside her, already talking excitedly about the school they would be visiting first in Kenya, she felt nothing but certainty. Some chances were worth taking. Some mistakes, like hugging the wrong man in an airport, turned out to be the best decisions of all. In the end, it wasn't about erasing their differences or pretending they didn't exist. It was about recognizing that sometimes, the most unlikely connections could be the strongest, bridging different worlds to create something beautiful and unexpected. As the plane soared above the clouds, Amara leaned her head on Marcus's shoulder, content in the knowledge that their story was just beginning. Whatever came next, they would face it together, the billionaire and the teacher who had found each other by chance and chosen each other by heart. "D&D, the kids are amazing," Amara told him during one call. "There's this one boy, Damon, who struggled so much at the beginning of the year. Today he read an entire paragraph by himself. You should have seen his face when he realized what he'd accomplished." Marcus smiled, loving the way her whole face lit up when she talked about teaching. "That sounds incredible. You're making a real difference there." "It's just the beginning," Amara replied. "How are things going with the Ghana project?" "Better than expected. We've identified 4 schools for the initial pilot. The local officials are fully on board." Marcus's expression grew more serious. "The board has grudgingly approved the first phase funding after that article came out. I think they realized blocking it would create more negative publicity than they wanted to deal with." "That's great news," Amara said sincerely. "I knew you'd find a way." Their conversations continued like this throughout the first week, both enthusiastic about their work while missing each other's physical presence. But as Marcus moved on to Kenya and his schedule became more demanding, the time difference made connecting more difficult. Calls became shorter, sometimes missed altogether and replaced with brief text messages. By the end of the second week, a subtle distance had begun to grow between them, not emotional so much as practical. Their lives were moving in different directions, both meaningful but increasingly separate. Meanwhile, Amara noticed something concerning. Despite their attempts to keep their relationship private, photographers occasionally appeared outside her apartment building or workplace. She tried to ignore them, but their presence was a constant reminder of the public interest in her connection to Marcus. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day, Amara collapsed onto her couch and opened her laptop to check her email. A message from an unfamiliar address caught her attention. The subject line read simply, "What you should know about Marcus Reed." Against her better judgment, Amara opened it. Inside was a collection of links to old news articles and social media posts about Marcus's previous relationships, focusing particularly on his broken engagement to Elise. The message concluded with, "He has a pattern." Gets infatuated, makes promises, then moves on when the novelty wears off. Just thought you should know what you're getting into. The email was anonymous, but Amara had her suspicions about who might have sent it. She closed the laptop, troubled despite herself. She had no reason to doubt Marcus's sincerity, but the seed of uncertainty had been planted. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Sorry I missed our call again. Emergency meeting ran late. Talk tomorrow?" Amara stared at the message, suddenly feeling the full weight of the gap between their worlds. While she was grading papers and helping children learn to read, he was in meetings that could affect thousands of lives and millions of dollars. How long before the excitement of their unusual connection wore off and he realized they had little in common? "No problem. Tomorrow works." She texted back, keeping it light. But that night, Amara found herself unable to sleep, her mind replaying both the anonymous email's warnings and Elise's visit weeks earlier. Had she been naive to think this relationship could work? Was she setting herself up for heartbreak by believing a billionaire CEO could be genuinely interested in a teaching assistant from a struggling family? The next day, Samuel found her distracted during their usual Sunday breakfast. "Earth to Amara," he said, waving a hand in front of her face. "You haven't heard a word I've said." "Sorry," Amara sighed. "Just tired." Samuel studied her face. "This isn't about those photographers outside, is it? Or is it about Marcus being away?" "Both." "Neither." Amara pushed her food around her plate. "I got this email." After she explained about the anonymous message, Samuel's expression hardened. "That's messed up. Sounds like someone's trying to sabotage your relationship." "Maybe," Amara conceded. "Or maybe they're trying to warn me." "Do you really believe that?" Samuel asked incredulously. "After everything Marcus has done for our family? The way he looks at you." Amara shook her head. "I don't know what to believe. That's the problem. Our lives are so different, Sam. He's literally on another continent right now, making decisions that will affect thousands of people. And I'm here trying to help one child at a time learn to read. Both those things matter," Samuel pointed out. "Just in different ways. But for how long will someone like him find my world interesting? What happens when the novelty wears off?" Samuel leaned back, considering his sister carefully. "I think you're looking for reasons to push him away before he can hurt you. But from what I've seen, Marcus isn't like other rich guys. He actually cares about the same things you do, education making a difference. Just on a different scale." Amara knew her brother had a point. But the distance, both physical and circumstantial, was making her doubts harder to ignore. That evening, when Marcus called as promised, Amara found herself holding back slightly, measuring her words. He noticed immediately. "Is everything okay?" he asked, his face concerned even through the video screen. "You seem distant." Amara hesitated, then decided on honesty. "I got an anonymous email yesterday. About your past relationships. Suggesting you have a pattern of getting bored and moving on." Marcus's expression darkened. "That's completely inappropriate. Do you have any idea who sent it?" "I have suspicions," Amara admitted. "But that's not the point. The point is, it made me wonder if there's any truth to it." "And what do you think?" Marcus asked quietly. "I think I don't know what to think," Amara replied honestly. "We've only known each other a few months. You're traveling the world doing amazing work, meeting incredible people. I'm in a classroom helping kids sound out words. It's not hard to imagine you eventually realizing we're too different." Marcus was silent for a long moment. "Do you remember what I told you that first night at the gala? About why I was drawn to you?" Amara nodded slightly. "Because you saw me as a person, not a fortune or a position. Because you're genuine in a way few people in my life have ever been." Marcus leaned closer to the camera. "Yes, our day-to-day lives look different. But the things that matter to us, education, making a difference, family, those align perfectly. And as for getting bored," he smiled slightly. "Amara, every conversation with you interests me more than the last. I'm not going anywhere unless you want me to." His words eased some of her anxiety, but not all of it. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have let an anonymous email get to me." "No, I'm glad you told me," Marcus said. "We promised honesty, remember? That includes sharing our doubts and concerns." After they ended the call, Amara felt somewhat reassured. But the next morning, she opened her social media to find she had been tagged in dozens of posts overnight. Someone had leaked photos of her from college. Nothing scandalous, just normal party pictures of her having fun with friends. But they were being shared with captions suggesting she was a gold digger who had targeted Marcus Reed. Horrified, Amara immediately closed the app. Her phone began ringing with calls from numbers she didn't recognize, reporters most likely wanting comments on the photos. She turned off her phone entirely, feeling sick. When she arrived at work, the principal called her into his office. "Ms. Johnson," he began awkwardly, "I need to address the OI situation that's developing on social media." "Those photos are from years ago," Amara explained. "They're just normal college pictures being taken completely out of context." "I understand that," the principal assured her. "But we have a very strict policy about staff social media presence, especially for those working with younger children. Parents are already calling with concerns." Amara felt her heart sinking. "What are you saying?" "I'm not saying anything definitive at this point," he replied carefully. "But the school board has requested a meeting to discuss the situation. Until then, we think it would be best if you took a few days of leave." It was happening again, her personal life affecting her professional opportunities. Amara left the school feeling numb, uncertain how things had spiraled so quickly. Unable to reach Marcus due to his meeting schedule, she sent a brief text explaining the situation. His response came hours later. "This is unacceptable. I'm having my legal team look into who leaked those photos. They'll also contact the school board to clarify the situation." While Amara appreciated his support, something about his response troubled her. It felt like he was treating this as a problem to be solved with money and lawyers rather than understanding the emotional impact on her. When they finally connected by video that evening, Marcus was clearly angry. "My security team believes the photo leak and the anonymous email came from the same source," he said. "We're closing in on who's responsible." "Does it really matter who did it?" Amara asked tiredly. "The damage is done. I've been asked to take leave from a job I just started. People are calling me a gold digger online." "Of course it matters," Marcus insisted. "Whoever did this needs to be held accountable." "What I need right now isn't accountability, Marcus. It's understanding." Amara's voice broke slightly. "My life is being turned upside down because of our relationship, and you're thousands of miles away dealing with it like a business problem." Marcus's expression softened immediately. "You're right. I'm sorry. I hate that you're going through this because of me." "It's not because of you," Amara clarified. "It's because of who you are in the world. There's a difference." They were both quiet for a moment, the reality of their situation hanging between them. "I can come back early," Marcus finally offered. "The most critical meetings are done. My team can handle the rest." Amara was tempted to say yes, to ask him to return and help her navigate this storm. But she knew that would be selfish. "No," she said firmly. "The work you're doing there is too important. I can handle this." "Are you sure?" Marcus pressed, clearly concerned. "I'm sure," Amara nodded, though she felt anything but certain. "We just need to figure out a better way forward when you get back. One that doesn't keep disrupting both our lives." After they ended the call, Amara sat alone in her apartment, feeling the full weight of the challenges they faced. It wasn't just about different backgrounds or lifestyles anymore. It was about the practical reality of dating someone whose very name attracted attention and scrutiny she had never wanted. The next day brought more complications. When Samuel arrived home from classes, he was unusually quiet. "What's wrong?" Amara asked. "Someone at school recognized me as the billionaire's girlfriend's brother," he admitted reluctantly. "They started asking all these questions about you and Marcus, about our family, about Mom's health." It was weird. Amara felt a fresh wave of dismay. Now the unwanted attention was affecting her brother too. "I'm so sorry, Sam." He shrugged, trying to downplay it. "It's not your fault. People are just nosy. I told them to mind their own business." But the incident added to Amara's growing sense that their relationship was creating ripple effects neither she nor Marcus had fully anticipated. That evening, Esther joined them for dinner, looking stronger than she had in weeks. Her treatments were working, the doctors had confirmed, and her prognosis was increasingly positive. "I've been thinking," she said as they ate. "Once I'm fully recovered, I might look for a part-time job again. Nothing too demanding, but something to help with expenses." "Mom, you don't need to worry about money," Amara assured her. "Between my job," she stopped, remembering she was currently on leave. "Well, between our resources we're managing." Esther gave her daughter a knowing look. "Is that why you've been checking the mail before I can see it?" "To hide the bills." Caught Amara sighed. Despite Marcus paying off the medical debt, other expenses had been accumulating while Amara's income was inconsistent. "It's temporary," she insisted. "Once things settle down." "Once things settle down with Marcus, you mean?" Esther said gently. "Sweetheart, I see how this relationship is affecting you. The stress, the public attention, the job complications. It's worth it, Amara said automatically. Esther reached across the table to take her daughter's hand. Is it? You've always put others first. Me, Samuel, your students. But it's okay to consider what's best for you too. Not just what you're willing to endure for someone else. The word struck Amara deeply. Was she enduring rather than enjoying this relationship now? The beginning had been magical, unexpected and exciting. But reality had set in quickly, bringing complications she hadn't been prepared for. Later that night, unable to sleep, Amara made a decision. She needed space to think clearly, away from the daily reminders of how her life had changed since meeting Marcus. She needed to determine whether what they had could truly work long-term, or if they were simply prolonging the inevitable realization that their worlds were too different to merge successfully. She sent Marcus a message, "We need to talk when you get back. Until then, I think I need some space to think about everything that's happening. I care about you deeply, but I'm not sure this is working for either of us." Marcus's response came quickly despite the time difference. "I understand. I'll be back in 3 days. Whatever you're feeling, whatever concerns you have, we can work through them together. I'm not giving up on us, Amara." His certainty should have been reassuring. Instead, it made Amara wonder if he truly understood the reality of their situation. Could determination and good intentions overcome the practical challenges they faced? Or were they just postponing an inevitable goodbye? As Amara finally drifted off to sleep, she couldn't shake the feeling that the next few days would determine not just the future of their relationship, but the direction of her entire life. 3 days felt like an eternity as Amara waited for Marcus to return. She used the time to seriously consider what she wanted, not just for their relationship but for her life more broadly. The teaching position remained in limbo. The school board would meet the following week to make a final decision. Meanwhile, she focused on her credential coursework and spent time with her family, deliberately avoiding social media and news. On the day of Marcus's return, Amara received an unexpected call from a blocked number. Against her better judgment, she answered. "Ms. Johnson? This is Victoria Winters from the Chronicle. I'd like to offer you an opportunity to tell your side of the story before we publish our piece tomorrow." Amara's stomach tightened. "What piece?" "Our investigation into your relationship with Marcus Reed," the reporter explained, her tone professionally pleasant. "We've uncovered some interesting information about the timing of your supposed chance meeting at the airport." "What are you talking about?" Amara asked, genuinely confused. "Security footage shows you waiting in that specific area for over 30 minutes before Mr. Reed's arrival. And your brother was nowhere nearby, contrary to your story about mistaking Mr. Reed for him." Amara felt like the floor was dropping beneath her. "That's not true. My brother was there, he just arrived from a different direction than I expected. We also have sources suggesting you researched Mr. Reed extensively before the encounter," the reporter continued, ignoring Amara's denial, "including his travel schedule and philanthropic interests." "This is completely false," Amara said firmly, anger replacing her initial shock. "Who are these sources? What would I possibly gain from orchestrating such an elaborate scheme?" "Well, your mother's medical bills have been paid off for one thing," Victoria replied smoothly. "And you've gained access to social circles you couldn't have entered otherwise." Amara was speechless with outrage. Before she could formulate a response, the reporter continued. "I'm offering you a chance to provide your perspective, Ms. Johnson. Otherwise, we'll proceed with the information we have." "Which is nothing but lies," Amara finally managed. "I have no comment on your fictitious story." She hung up, hands shaking with a mix of anger and disbelief. Someone was deliberately trying to destroy her relationship with Marcus by painting her as a calculating gold digger. The question was, who would benefit from such a portrayal? Her phone rang again almost immediately. This time it was Marcus. "I just landed," he said when she answered. "Can I come see you?" Despite her turmoil over the reporter's call, Amara felt a wave of relief at the sound of his voice. "Yes. There's something I need to tell you about." An hour later, Marcus arrived at her apartment, looking tired from travel but happy to see her. He pulled her into a tight embrace, which she returned instinctively, drawing comfort from his solid presence. "I missed you," he said simply. "I missed you too." Amara stepped back. "But we need to talk." She told him about the reporter's call and the false narrative being constructed. Marcus listened, his expression growing increasingly troubled. "I'll have my legal team contact the Chronicle immediately," he said when she finished. "This is defamation, plain and simple." "But who would do this?" Amara asked. "Who would benefit from making me look like I tricked you?" Marcus was silent for a moment, clearly thinking. Several possibilities come to mind. Business rivals looking to distract me. Board members who disapprove of our relationship. Former associates with personal grievances. He didn't explicitly mention Elise, but the implication was clear. It doesn't matter who's behind it, Amara said tiredly. What matters is that it's happening and it's affecting both of us. This is exactly why I asked for space to think. These past months have been a roller coaster. Some of the happiest moments of my life, but also some of the most stressful. Marcus moved to sit beside her on the couch, taking her hand. I know it's been difficult, but we can get through this together. The article, the photos, the job complications, these are all temporary problems with solutions. That's how you see everything, isn't it? Amara observed, not unkindly. As problems with solutions. Business challenges to overcome. Isn't that a good approach? Marcus asked, looking slightly confused. Sometimes, Amara acknowledged. But relationships aren't business deals, Marcus. They're messy and complicated, especially when the people involved come from such different worlds. Marcus was quiet for a moment, considering her words. What are you saying, Amara? Are you ending this? The directness of his question caught her off guard. I don't know, she admitted honestly. Part of me thinks that might be the sensible choice. But another part. Another part what? He prompted gently when she didn't continue. Amara looked at him. Really looked at the man who had unexpectedly entered her life just a few months ago. Despite all the complications, her feelings for him had only deepened. Another part can't imagine not having you in my life, she finally said. Relief washed over Marcus's face. Then let's focus on that part. Everything else we can figure out together. Before Amara could respond, her phone rang again. It was Samuel. Sis, turn on the news. Channel 8. Now. Alarmed by the urgency in her brother's voice, Amara grabbed the remote and switched on the small television. A breaking news banner scrolled across the bottom of the screen. Exclusive. Reed Technologies CEO Marcus Reed accused of improper business practices. The reporter on screen was speaking earnestly. Allegations include manipulation of stock prices before major announcements and improper relationships with overseas officials during the recent educational technology expansion. Marcus stared at the screen in shock. This is completely false, he said, his voice tight with anger. Every aspect of our international educational initiative has been conducted with full transparency and compliance. The news segment continued, featuring an interview with a former company insider, whose face was blurred and voice disguised. The figure claimed to have documentation proving Marcus had engaged in questionable business practices to secure foreign contracts and had used company resources for personal ventures, specifically mentioning financing his girlfriend's family's expenses. That's about my mother's medical bills, Amara realized, horrified. They're twisting what you did out of kindness into something corrupt. Marcus was already on his phone, calling his chief legal officer. Their conversation was brief and intense, with Marcus giving clear directions for an immediate response to the allegations. After hanging up, he turned to Amara, his expression grim. This isn't a coincidence. The hit piece on you, now this attack on me, they're coordinated. But why? What would anyone gain from all this? Marcus paced the small living room, thinking. The timing is significant. Our board meets next week to finalize approval for the full international education initiative. If my reputation is damaged, if there are questions about my judgment or ethics, they could delay or even cancel the project. So this is about business after all, Amara said, the pieces falling into place. Someone is using our relationship as leverage against your company's plans. Marcus nodded slowly. It appears that way. And I think I know who. Before he could elaborate, there was a sharp knock at the door. Amara opened it to find a courier with a thick envelope. Delivery for Marcus Reed, the man said, holding out an electronic signature pad. Marcus signed for the package with a frown. Inside was a single folder containing documents and what appeared to be photographs. As he examined the contents, his expression changed from confusion to cold anger. What is it? Amara asked, concerned. Evidence, Marcus said grimly. Financial records showing Harold Whitman, my most vocal opponent on the board, has been secretly investing in a rival company developing similar educational technology. If our initiative succeeds, his investment fails. And photos of him meeting with the editor-in-chief of the Chronicle 3 days ago. So he's behind all this? Amara was stunned. The anonymous email, the photo leak, the false stories about both of us? It appears so. Marcus continued examining the documents. There's a note here too. From Elise, surprisingly enough. Elise? Amara couldn't hide her surprise. Marcus handed her the note. It read simply, I may not approve of your relationship choices, but corporate sabotage crosses a line. Use this however you need to. I don't understand, Amara said. I thought she might be behind some of this. Elise can be calculating and manipulative, Marcus admitted. But she's always had a strong sense of business ethics. And she knows how much this educational initiative means to me. Amara sat down heavily, trying to process this latest development. So what happens now? Marcus's phone buzzed with a series of messages, his team responding to the crisis. Now we fight back, he said, a new determination in his voice. With the truth. The next 24 hours were a whirlwind of activity. Marcus mobilized his legal and PR teams to address both the false allegations against him and the fabricated story about Amara. With Elise's evidence, they were able to trace most of the attacks back to proxies working for Harold Whitman. By the following evening, the narrative had begun to shift. The Chronicle published a retraction of their planned story about Amara, acknowledging their source had provided unverifiable information. The business news channels were now reporting on the apparent conflict of interest within Reed Technologies' board, with several major shareholders publicly supporting Marcus. Amara watched it all unfold with a strange sense of detachment. While relieved that the false accusations were being addressed, she couldn't shake the feeling that this episode revealed something fundamental about what a relationship with Marcus would always entail: scrutiny, politics, and public battles she had never wanted to fight. When Marcus finally returned to her apartment after a day of emergency meetings, he looked exhausted but triumphant. Whitman has resigned from the board, he announced. 3 other members who supported him have apologized and pledged to approve the educational initiative. We've won. That's wonderful, Amara said sincerely. I'm happy for you, Marcus. I know how important this project is. Marcus studied her face. But. Amara took a deep breath. But this whole situation has made me realize something important. This is your world. Corporate politics, media battles, public scrutiny. You navigated brilliantly because you've had to learn how. I haven't, and I'm not sure I want to. What are you saying? Marcus asked quietly. I'm saying I need to be honest with myself, and with you, about whether I can handle being part of your life long term. Not just the good parts, but all of it. The photographers, the rumors, the business rivals using me to get to you. Marcus moved closer, taking her hands in his. Amara, I can protect you from most of that. With time, the media interest will fade. We can be more careful, more private. But that's just it, Amara replied gently. I don't want to live carefully. I don't want to constantly wonder if something I say or do will be twisted and used against you. I want a normal life, focusing on teaching and my family. And you think you can't have that with me? The hurt in Marcus's voice was evident despite his attempt to hide it. I don't know, Amara admitted. That's what I've been trying to figure out these past few days. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their conversation hanging between them. Finally, Marcus spoke again. What about your mother's treatments? Your teaching credential program? I know money isn't everything, but my support has made those things possible. The question stung, though Amara knew he hadn't meant it as a manipulation. We managed before I met you, she said quietly. We'll find a way to manage again if necessary. Marcus looked genuinely distressed. I didn't mean it like that. I'm not trying to use financial support as leverage. I want to help. I want to be part of your life, Amara. All of it, the struggles and the joys. I know, Amara said softly. And that's what makes this so hard. Outside, rain had begun to fall, pattering against the windows. In the small apartment, 2 people from vastly different worlds sat together, facing a decision that would change both their lives. I'm not giving up, Marcus finally said. Not unless you tell me definitively that's what you want. But I will give you the space you asked for. Time to decide if what we have is worth fighting for. Amara nodded, unable to speak past the tightness in her throat. Marcus stood, clearly reluctant to leave but respecting her need for space. For what it's worth, he said at the door, meeting you was the best thing that's happened to me in years. Whether you believe it or not, you've changed me, Amara. You've reminded me what really matters. After he left, Amara sat alone in the quiet apartment, tears finally flowing freely. The rational part of her mind insisted that ending things now would be simpler, cleaner. But her heart rebelled against the idea of never seeing Marcus again, never experiencing the connection they had built despite all the obstacles. As she finally went to bed, exhausted from emotional turmoil, Amara realized that the next day would bring the most important decision of her life. Not just about a relationship but about what kind of future she truly wanted, safe and predictable or challenging but potentially extraordinary. What she didn't know was that morning would bring an unexpected development that would change everything once again. Amara woke to sunlight streaming through her bedroom window. After the emotional turmoil of the previous day, she had slept surprisingly well, as if her subconscious had already made the decision her conscious mind was struggling with. She made coffee and sat by the window watching the city come to life below. Her thoughts turned to Marcus. His determination, his integrity in facing the false accusations, the way he had respected her need for space despite clearly wanting to fight for their relationship. Whatever she decided, she knew she had been fortunate to know him. Her phone buzzed with a text from Samuel. "Mom and I are going to the park for a walk. Join us." The normality of the invitation was appealing after days of drama. "Be there in 30, she replied. The small neighborhood park was peaceful on Sunday morning, with families strolling along the paths and children playing on the swings. Amara spotted her mother and brother on a bench near the central fountain, both looking relaxed and happy. "There she is," Samuel called as she approached. "The woman of the hour." "Please tell me there isn't more news," Amara groaned, sitting beside them. "Not about you specifically," Esther said, handing Amara the morning paper. "But about Marcus." The front-page business section featured a detailed exposé of Harold Whitman's conflict of interest and attempted sabotage of Reed Technologies' educational initiative. The article painted Marcus as a principled CEO fighting corporate corruption, noting that his relationship with a teacher from a modest background had been weaponized in an attempt to derail his humanitarian business goals. "They actually got most of it right," Amara said, surprised. "And they described me as a teacher rather than the airport hugger. That's progress, I guess." "Have you decided what you're going to do?" Esther asked gently. Amara sighed. "I've been thinking about it all night. Part of me believes ending things would be simpler for everyone. But another part loves him," Samuel suggested. The directness of the question caught Amara off guard. Did she love Marcus? They had never used that word with each other, cautious perhaps about moving too quickly in a relationship already complicated by external factors. "I care about him deeply," she said carefully. "But love requires more than just feelings. It requires compatibility, shared values, similar goals. Which you and Marcus have," Samuel pointed out. "You both care about education, about making a difference. You're both loyal to family. You're both stubborn as hell," he added with a grin. "Samuel's right," Esther said, surprising Amara. "I've watched you two together. Behind all the surface differences, you connect on what truly matters." "But Mom, you've seen how complicated this has been," Amara protested. "The media attention, the job issues, the stress." Esther patted her daughter's hand. "Life is always complicated, sweetheart. The question is whether what you gain is worth what you endure." She smiled slightly. "And whether you're stronger together facing those complications than you would be apart." As Amara considered her mother's words, a commotion near the park entrance caught their attention. A small crowd had gathered, people pointing and taking photos with their phones. "What's happening?" Amara asked, standing to get a better view. And then she saw him. Marcus, walking through the park, alone and without his usual security detail. He was dressed simply in jeans and a blue jacket, the same blue jacket he had been wearing the day they met at the airport. The coincidence couldn't be accidental. He spotted her and changed direction, walking purposefully toward their bench. People in the park recognized him, some taking photos, others whispering to each other. But for once, Marcus seemed completely unconcerned by the attention. "I know you asked for space," he said when he reached them, slightly breathless as if he had been hurrying. "And I plan to give it to you. But then I realized something important." "What's that?" Amara asked, her heart racing despite herself. "That sometimes the right thing isn't the careful thing." Marcus glanced around at the curious onlookers, then back to Amara. "I've spent years being careful, calculating risks, managing perceptions, following expectations. Until you hugged me in that airport and turned everything upside down." Amara couldn't help smiling at the memory. "It was an honest mistake. Best mistake of my life," Marcus replied with feeling. "Amara, I don't want to be careful anymore. I don't want to hide or downplay or strategically manage our relationship to please my board or the media or anyone else. I want to be honest, with the world and with you, about how I feel." People had begun to gather around them, sensing that something significant was happening. Phones were raised, recording the scene. For once, Amara found she didn't mind the attention. "And how do you feel?" she asked softly. Marcus took her hands in his eyes never leaving hers. "I love you," he said simply. "I love your kindness, your intelligence, your dedication to your family and your students. I love how you challenge me to see the world differently. I love that you've never once been impressed by my money or position, only by the person I am beneath all that." Murmurs rippled through the growing crowd. Samuel was grinning broadly beside them, while Esther watched with tears in her eyes. "I know our worlds are different," Marcus continued. "I know there will be challenges, but I also know that what we have is worth fighting for. So I'm standing here in public, not caring who sees or what they think, asking you to give us a real chance." Amara was momentarily speechless, overwhelmed by both his words and the public nature of his declaration. In that moment she realized something important. The Marcus Reed standing before her, vulnerable and honest, was far removed from the cautious businessman who had first given her his card at the airport. He had changed just as she had. "I don't need grand gestures or public declarations," she finally said. "But I appreciate what this means for you, choosing to be open despite the risks." "That's not an answer," Marcus pointed out, a hint of anxiety in his voice. Amara smiled, suddenly certain of her decision. "Yes," she said clearly. "Yes, I'll give us a real chance. Because I love you too." The words felt right as soon as she spoke them, true in a way she had been denying herself. Marcus's face lit up with joy, and without hesitation he pulled her into his arms and kissed her, right there in the park with dozens of strangers watching and recording. When they finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Amara became aware of applause erupting around them. People were cheering, taking photos, some even wiping away tears at witnessing what appeared to be a real-life fairy tale.